All right, let's just jump right in. People often think the world of power is this chaotic, unpredictable thing. But what if I told you it's actually a game, a social game with a very specific set of rules? And if you want to win, or even just survive, you've got to learn how to play. It all starts with the very first move.
And you know, the foundation for playing this game isn't what you'd expect. It's not about being the strongest or the most ambitious. It's about mastering your own emotions. This quote really hits the nail on the head. Letting your emotions run the show is the single biggest roadblock to power. It's a costly mistake, because if you don't get a handle on your feelings, you can be sure they will get a handle on you.
So, if we're all in this game together, we have to know the rules. And this first rule, well, it's everything. It's the absolute bedrock. If you can really get this one, truly internalize it, it makes navigating all the other rules so much easier. But if you get this wrong, you might be off the board before you even knew you were playing.
And here it is, law number 1, never outshine the master. Now, it sounds pretty simple, right? Almost obvious. But how it plays out in the real world is incredibly subtle and honestly a little counterintuitive. This is a law that has taken down some of the most talented people in history and kept the powerful in their place for centuries.
This is where things get tricky. I mean, think about it. Everything we're ever taught is to show off what we can do, to impress the people in charge. But this law says, whoa, hold on. Going too far, shining too brightly, doesn't always get you a pat on the back. Sometimes, all it does is spark fear and insecurity. Suddenly, your own brilliance starts to cast a shadow. And trust me, an insecure master is a very, very dangerous thing.
You know, the best way to really get a law like this is to see what happens when somebody breaks it. So let's look at a classic transgression from history, a story of what happens when natural-born talent collides with monstrous vanity.
I want you to meet Astor Manfredi. We're in the year 1500, and he's the young prince of a city in Italy. And this guy wasn't just any prince. He was the real deal. Handsome, charming, graceful, beloved by everyone. He just shined, you know? He didn't even have to try.
And this is where the two worlds collide. The famously cruel and ambitious Cesare Borgia conquers Manfredi's city. And suddenly, Borgia is face to face with someone who is everything he isn't. Borgia had to scheme for power. Manfredi was naturally loved. Borgia was feared. Manfredi was adored. For a guy as deeply vain and insecure as Borgia, just having Manfredi around, it felt like a personal attack.
So, what happens? What happens when this kind of natural light runs smack into a black hole of insecurity? At first, Borgia actually spared the young prince. He let him stay at his court. But just imagine, every single day, Borgia had to watch Manfredi's effortless charisma, a constant living reminder of his own shortcomings.
And, well, this is the tragic result. Manfredi hadn't committed a crime. He didn't plot against Borgia. His only mistake was that he shone brighter than his new boss. His mere existence made the great Cesare Borgia feel small. The key thing to understand here is that Borgia didn't get rid of a rival. He got rid of a shadow that he felt was being cast over him.
Now, Manfredi's story isn't just some old tragic tale. It's a perfect window into the psychology that makes this law so incredibly potent. So let's really get inside the head of an insecure superior.
I mean, it makes you wonder, right? Why would someone with so much power feel so threatened? Well, when you're dealing with a master like this, they see the world through a filter of fear. Your talent, to them, it's not an asset, it's a direct threat. Your great new idea, that's not innovation. That's a silent critique of their old way of doing things. They will convince themselves that you are subtly, deliberately, trying to show them up, even if you're just doing your best work.
And this, right here, is what makes this law so incredibly dangerous. You don't actually have to do anything wrong. You don't have to be scheming or ambitious. Just like poor Manfredi, you can break this law simply by being your talented self, especially if your master happens to be deeply insecure.
Okay, so understanding the danger is one thing, but what do you actually do about it? How do you navigate this minefield and not just survive, but actually use this law to your advantage? So let's get into the strategy.
So, how do you play this game? First, your job is to make them look brilliant. It's all about managing their ego. When you pitch an idea, you could say something like, you know, building on that great point you made last week. Let them take the credit in public. It makes you look like a loyal ally, not a flashy rival. Second, you give your ideas away. If you have to show off a skill, you can make it seem like something you learned from their amazing mentorship.
Your talent stops being a threat and becomes a testament to their greatness. Third, you learn to mute your best qualities. This doesn't mean you act dumb, it means you're strategic. Maybe don't drop your most game-changing idea in a big meeting where they might feel put on the spot. You bring it to them privately first. And finally, and this is probably the most important one, know when to walk away. If you realize you're working for a true Caesar Borgia, someone whose ego is just bottomless, the smartest move isn't to try to play the game better, it's to find a new game entirely. Get out of there.
Which brings us to a final, really provocative question. We tend to think of power as being loud, visible, putting a spotlight on ourselves. But maybe, just maybe, the greatest act of power is knowing exactly when and for whom to dim your own light. Is the strategic concealment of your own talents the ultimate form of control? It's definitely something to think about.